Okay, we're going to get set to go here.
Yeah, I have. Some of it is.
So Councillor McLeod is here in the audience. Just want to introduce the councillors that are here this evening. Down to my far left, to your right, is Councillor McLeod. Next to Councillor McLeod is Councillor Yankoff, Councillor Bernard, and next to me is Councillor Julie McCabe. To the other end, my right, your left, Councillor Tweel, and next to me is Councillor Michael Duffy, who is the Chair of Planning and Heritage. Councillor Cody is not here. Councillor, I believe, Councillor Rivard has a family obligation. And Ellen, is Councillor Duran online? So Councillor Duran, so he's coming into us via cyberspace. And that's it. Are we missing?
Councillor Cody is online too, but he's not going to be here for the mails because of a conflict of interest.
Right. So Councillor Cody will be, the deputy is in conflict on the Angus Drive application, so he will not participate. And we'll start off. My name is Philip Brown. The agenda for this evening, called to order, which we are doing right now. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Deputy Mayor Cody? Okay, so he's not in. Approval of the agenda. Could I ask Council, because of the magnitude of both applications, could we move B to A to B? Is that all right to deal with 7-9 Pownell Street first? Councillor Duffy, is that all right?
Before we do that, Your Worship, I think Councillor Cody is probably going by the agenda we have in front of us. And I have no problem in moving Pownell Street to the first, but that's probably why you're not getting them on the line. He thinks that we're doing Angus Drive now, so he's not there because of the conflict. So when it comes time for Angus Drive to be done second, he's going to show up thinking Angus Drive has already been done.
Okay.
So I have no trouble shuffling it around.
No. So the applicants for 7 to 9 Pownell Street, I think you'll have to just bear witness of what will take place, if that's okay. There's also Chris, one of our board members. Chris Fournier is one of our planning board members that's sitting down at the back. Alex Forbes is here. And Bob Kenny, where's Bob? Bob's over there. Any other planning board members?
Rosemary Herbert is online.
Is Rosemary online? Rosemary Hebert?
Yeah.
And Reg McGinnis?
And Reg McGinnis is online.
Yeah.
So they're with the planning board. Anyone else online that's with the planning board? No. Okay, and I believe Steve Yo is here with the Department of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Energy. Steve, are you just the only one from the department? And so is Alan Aiken. So both of them will be speaking to this application, Angus Drive. So I'm going to turn it over to Councillor Duffy, and he'll just go over some of the rules and procedures for this evening's meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's public meeting. Council is pleased that you have joined us, whether in person, on WebEx, or a live stream. As the Mayor has indicated, my name is Councillor Duffy. I'm the Chair of the City's Planning and Heritage Committee. And just before the Mayor starts the formal session, I would like to go over a few ground rules as noted in the Council's procedural bylaw. After a brief presentation, each applicant/developer will be allotted a maximum of 10 minutes to provide their input, after which time members of Council will be allowed to ask questions of clarity. Councils are reminded not to give their opinion on the topics being considered, as they are to remain neutral until the process is completed. Once Council has finished asking questions of clarity, the public will be given an opportunity to speak, at which time each participant will be provided 5 minutes in which to provide their comments. While a member of the public is speaking, others are asked to show respect and decorum to all participants, maintain quiet and order, refrain from distributing disturbing the proceeding by words, gestures, or actions, including applauding, displaying flags, placards, or similar material. Refrain from talking on electronic mobile devices and ensure that all electronic devices are silent and operated in such a manner that does not interfere with the meeting or with another person's ability to hear or view the proceedings. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us as we appreciate your interest and involvement in the city's planning process. I will now hand the meeting back over to His Worship Mayor Brown. It's all yours.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. So the first item on the agenda is 4A, Angus Drive, Lot 40, PID number 419143, and 413 St. Peter's Road, PID number 419135. Who's the planner? Laurel, do you want to present first? So Laura Palmer Thompson will be addressing from that end, the south end of the Royalty Court. Laurel.
So good evening, everyone, Mayor and Council, members of the public. This is a request to rezone Lot 40, Angus Drive, from single detached residential, R1L zone, to mixed-use corridor, MUC zone, and rezone 413 St. Peter's Road from low-density residential, R2 zone, to mixed-use corridor, MUC zone. It's also to amend Appendix A, future land use map of the official plan for Angus Drive, Lot 40, and 413 St. Peter's Road from mature neighborhood to village center commercial. There's also a request to consolidate PID number 419143, Lot 40 Angus Drive, PID number 419135, 413 St. Peter's Road, and PID number 192187, Being Mel's Convenience Store, into one parcel. So the subject properties are bound by R1L zoning to the north, St. Peter's Road to the south, Mel's Convenience Store, which is zoned MUC, to the east, and Angus Drive to the west. Existing on 413 St. Peter's Road is a single detached dwelling, and Lot 40 Angus Drive is a vacant lot. So this is Lot 40 Angus Drive, and then this is 413 St. Peter's Road. Mel's is located along St. Peter's Road, which is a provincial highway. It is one of the main arteries for traffic traveling in and out of the city from the eastern portion of the island. The current application has come forward because the province is undertaking major upgrades to St. Peter's Road during the summer of 2021. The upgrades include the construction of a roundabout at the location of Angus Drive and St. Peter's Road and Hammack Drive. The province is also constructing a center median on St. Peter's Road. This median will allow vehicles traveling east to make left turns into Mel's and will not permit vehicles exiting the site to make left turns. Only right-in, right-out movements will be permitted off St. Peter's Road. Therefore, vehicles traveling east will be required to exit onto Angus Drive or St. Peter's Road in a westbound direction and circle the roundabout before heading east. This will create a much safer situation for vehicles accessing and entering the site. In 2013, the province and the city completed a traffic study on St. Peter's Road. Due to traffic generated at this location, the study identified Angus Drive as one of the key intersections for controlled access. Representatives from both Mel's and the province of PEI, Transportation, Infrastructure, and Energy are here to speak to the application. I believe Mel's is going to come up first. No?
Laurel, they're going to allow the engineers to go first. Steve?
Okay. Steve, you would like to speak first? This is the pointer and then forward.
Okay.
Perfect.
Mayor and Council, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm here tonight is to just explain what we're looking at for upgrades at Angus intersection as well as McWilliams. We're doing 3 roundabouts altogether, but those are the 2 that I want to discuss tonight. The plan is for a controlled intersection at Angus, connecting the subdivision to the south as well, which is down here. And we're looking at safety and capacity in our corridors. That's what we've been doing as we built the roundabout at Northridge. We made a major upgrade to the intersection of St. Peter's Road and the bypass, opened it this fall. So we're really improving the efficiency of moving traffic through the intersection. So we had to complete those 2 sections or upgrades before we come to our final phase, which is the 3 roundabouts in East Royalty. So as traffic proceeds east, heading towards Surrey, heading out in this direction, we felt, we know there's a high volume of traffic going into Mills. So the safest way to get traffic in there is to go around the roundabout onto Angus and then in on an axis here. So, once the traffic goes in the roundabout, they have the right of way. So it's going to open up some breaks for traffic to get out of Angus as well. So that's safety efficiency improvement as well. Looking at, I'll go back to that in a second. Looking at the overall project. Excuse me, I hit the wrong button here. Looking at the overall project, and I know there's been discussion, and we've done this at some locations where we couldn't access a commercial business from a secondary street, that, it was right in, right out only. But if there is the ability to access that commercial business from a secondary street at a roundabout location where there is an intersection, the department would much prefer that to happen because, safety reasons. All the people that live up in Angus here, if they want to go to Mel's, if there's no access here, they have to come out around the roundabout, all the way up to McWilliams, all the way back and go right in and right out. So again, you're putting more pressure on the system, more traffic load, which we're trying to increase efficiencies. So that's one of the reasons that, as well as, this is a busy section of road. As more dwellings and buildings develop, and we know it's going to develop up in this section. You look what happened in the last 2 years just up McWilliams alone. The secondary streets are getting more and more busier. There's a capacity issue and a really time delay trying to turn right or left, particularly left on Route 2 now. So again, if the traffic doesn't have to come up and go around McWilliams and come back and to go right in, that's going to open up a lot more spaces for traffic to get into this roundabout as well as this roundabout. And again, the traffic that goes left into this back access as proposed, not all that traffic is going to go back out through that. A lot of it, if you're going to the front of the building, will just turn right out, go around the roundabout, and continue heading towards Surrey. So, and this little bigger area here showing, we know there's concern with the offset and the distance where this access would be located. Again, the alignment of this can be tweaked a little more to the south to take any line of sight or headlights off this dwelling. And that will be, I know there's going to be a couple of buildings affected there. Myself and the minister has been out to have some discussions last week with the individuals. But, from our perspective, it's all about safety and efficiencies. On Route 2, we're going to make this a 4-lane cross-section. There's going to be splitter islands you know, all the way from the St. Peter's Road and the bypass intersection, all the way through right down to McWilliams roundabout, where the new roundabout is going to be located there. So again, very much safer. There will be no left-turning traffic trying to maneuver out onto high-capacity roads. And you'll see far less delays on the secondary or the Charlottetown streets during peak hours in particular. So that's what the department has planned. Alan Aiken, our traffic engineer, is here as well. He's looked at some numbers and queuing how much delay is going to be here. We're only looking at 1 or 2 vehicles being queued up and have to wait. So it's this will be a very efficient way to operate this intersection. And after the presentations, we'll be happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Okay, Steve, thank you. So Alan, you don't want to add anything to the conversation? You're good? Okay. Okay. What's that? Okay, any technical questions, he's here. So do the proponents wish to make some statements, Mr. McIsaac, or is it Jeff? You just want to go up there, please? And Councillor Duffy reminded me that we have the red, yellow, and green here, so that gives us a 5-minute. Yellow just gives you caution. Red, we turn off the mic.
Good. Okay, hello.
Just introduce yourself, please.
Okay, my name's Jeff Duce. I'm the general manager of our Mel's Petro-Canada. There's not much more than I can add that what Stephen already went through. They are the experts when it comes to roadways and the way traffic and that moves, but I can maybe add a little more of a component to what we see on the site level. I'm pretty sure everybody here has either heard or seen or been to Mel's during snowstorm, the early days of COVID, holidays, and even sunny summer day. And it can be quite chaotic out there. You have cars trying to turn left across 2 lanes of highway. You have those same cars trying to exit our property over 2 lanes of highway. You've even seen, or we've even seen, cars onto the side of the road where they don't want to try to maneuver through all the traffic and take it upon themselves to actually physically run across 4 lanes of traffic. This here plan would eliminate all that. It gives motorists the opportunity to right in, right out, back onto the highway. It also will alleviate a lot of the congestion that you see out there now, giving people the opportunity to exit off that proposed side road onto the highway through a controlled intersection, which I'm no expert, but I'm assuming that's a lot more favorable than entering onto a busy highway. And as Stephen alluded to, it also gives them, the residents behind us, the opportunity to enter our property without having to go onto the highway, which does free up a lot of capacity through the roundabouts that Stephen alluded to. And that's really why we're here tonight. It's about safety. That's why the province is doing it, and that's why we're here to support it. So thank you.
Mr. McIsaac?
Thank you. First and foremost, I was reading some of the comments that were made by the residents that were not in favor. I want to emphasize this is absolutely not our initiative. Steve and Yo and I are not best friends. We've had enough construction in our area with the major intersection up at St. Peter's Road and the bypass, with the new roundabout that was put in last year, with COVID. We do not want to see more construction for a good while. But The government has a plan. They want to put this plan in effect, as Jeff has mentioned, for lots of reasons, primarily safety. And as was pointed out to us when we thought maybe there was no real big hurry to be doing this, and let's just take our time, it was pointed out that now is the time, and the government has the authority and the power to get this job done. So here we are tonight. As Jeff has said, we're going to make the best of this situation in terms of safety. Sometimes Mel's is very busy. When he referred to the government closing their liquor stores, for example, because of COVID or because of a storm, and we are open, it's as much as you think it's probably, look at that McIsaac guy, the lucky bugger, it's not always that way. But we have a growing community. The government is going to put in roundabouts. The focus is on safety, and we're going to probably be in a position where we have a safer property. We're pretty convinced of that now. We've had very, probably the hardest meetings that we've ever had in terms of this property, and we've come to the conclusion that the government's probably right, that this is not such a bad thing. But I want to reiterate, this is not our project. This is a government initiation, not ours. So we'll do what we can. The community does have to acknowledge that there's big growth, and with big growth comes a lot more factors in terms of safety. And we will accommodate that, and hopefully everybody will be happy with the end result. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McIsaac. So we have two mics, one to your left, one to your right. We do have staff here that will sanitize the mics after each use. All we ask is that you give your name, where you live. You don't have to give your address. You live in Charlottetown, East Royalty, West Royalty, it's all part of Charlottetown. And as I said, 5 minutes per speaker. And we will be a little flexible with it. I know Councillor Duffy wants me to be right on the button with it, but we will be flexible. So the mics are open. Please use them. As I said, state your name, and we'll begin. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. My name is Paula Redmond, and my parents, Paul and Florence McGonnell, reside at 17 Angus Drive. They have lived in their home for close to 50 years. I also am a resident of East Royalty on the East Royalty Road. We are objecting to the latest proposal of rezoning, consolidating the 3 lots, Lot 40 Angus Drive, 413 St. Peter's Road, 419 St. Peter's Road, also lot consolidation of PID 419143, PID 419135, and PID 192187, bordering on the northeast corner of St. Peter's Road and Angus Drive, for the sole purpose of creating an entrance-exit road to an extremely busy convenience store, gas bar, liquor store. We do recognize the high traffic volume on St. Peter's Road, especially in the vicinity of Mel's, and that some steps need to be taken to make this a safer area with a smoother flow of vehicular traffic. However, we object strongly to any proposed solution that would permit heavy traffic being directed onto Angus Drive. An alternative suggestion might be utilizing the 300 feet footage approximately from 413 St. Peters Road, 419 St. Peters Road, Mells, to construct the entrance exit, not Angus Drive. Or with the 2 St. Peters Road roundabouts in place, McWilliams and Angus, have all eastbound traffic that wants to access Mel's convenience store proceed to the McWilliams roundabout and circle back. This is very similar to what happens now on Riverside Drive, where eastbound traffic from City Center, Hillsborough Bridge, Exhibition Drive, etc., must proceed to Walker Drive roundabout and circle back to access any businesses on their left, i.e. Metro Building Supplies, Access PEI, etc. This would eliminate any need for an entrance-exit road into the residential area on Angus Drive. Once again, if the current proposal is approved as submitted, it will impact negatively on the quality of life of the Angus Drive homeowners, South End, and significantly devalue our properties. Homeowners like ourselves who have lived in single detached residential, in our case almost 50 years, zoned area, should have every reasonable expectation that any use of property in close proximity would not change to rezoning with such a detriment to our property. We are hoping the planners, designers will look further at this proposed design and find a different solution. We are asking and hoping for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paula. And I know Paul is sitting back there. Paul? Okay, the mics are open. If you wish to, just please state your name, address. Thank you.
Your Worship, Councillors, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak today. My name is Craig Phillips. I'm a co-owner of a property on Avonlea Drive. I'm here mostly to speak on behalf of my parents, Harold and Doreen Phillips. Similar to the last resident, we've been in the community since the early 70s. They built the house while my mother was pregnant with me in the early 70s. I hear that story repeatedly. So, you know, I went to the old East Royalty School when it was on Union Road, the old wooden schoolhouse, and I went to Mel's when it was a fruit stand to buy candy. So the reason I'm telling you this is not because I'm trying to touch your heart and pull your heartstrings, but because although we haven't done any traffic studies, there's lots of us in the neighborhood that have a pretty clear historical, even if anecdotal, understanding of what the traffic situation is in East Royalty. And for a very long period of time, as the development expands to the north up McCrae Drive, there's more and more traffic past the community center on Avonlea Drive, up Avonlea Drive, on Dara, on Short Street, on Angus Drive, and into Mel's Quick Mart, even now with the entrance that comes directly off of St. Peters Road. And part of that is because of the congestion on St. Peters Road, and we recognize development happens and that there needs to be traffic circles put in place somewhere. But our concern is that, you know, there's between the airport property, so north of East Royalty Road, and St. Peters Road, from Wrights Creek to McWilliams, there's about 200 hectares of land there. I did a quick count, an area measurement on the map. There's maybe 75 hectares at best that's developed. Easy to say that the rest of that is all going to be residential property someday. That's at least 3 times the population base now that's going to come down McCrae Drive and or McWilliams Road and onto St. Peters Road. Everybody in that community, maybe with a few exceptions, frequents Mel's, either the liquor store, the gas station, the convenience store, whatever the case may be. And a large portion of that traffic is going up Avonlea Drive and down Angus. And I think that it's unrealistic to think that people that are now taking that route or future people are going to go down, take a traffic circle at McCrae Drive, at Wrights Creek, go up the road, take another traffic circle, and then turn in to Mel's. There's going to be more traffic in the area. St. Peters Road is already a busy spot, but there's going to be more traffic coming from East Royalty north of St. Peters Road to Mel's over time. That's clearly the expectation of the business owner as well too, or there wouldn't be any expansion going on here. And that is going to be extremely detrimental to everybody who owns property in that neighborhood. I don't know, I don't want to go into what the province has planned too much, but I did some quick measurements of where the roundabouts and the controlled intersections are from Cornwall Road on the bypass as far around on the bypass to Hillsborough Bridge, and it seems like the average distance between them is about 800 or 850 meters. Now, in fairness, there are a couple that are quite a bit farther apart on the Cornwall end because they put in some overpasses, but even so, the only place that has as many intersections already as those that are planned from St. Peter's Road to East Royalty Road off St. Peter's Road, that section of property, or that section of highway rather, on Route 2, the only area that has that many intersections at that density is what was already mentioned along Riverside Drive. And we know what that's like at rush hour. And St. Peter's Road is incredibly busy. So I don't understand exactly why the province has put so many of them in there, and I'm curious as to why the Angus Drive traffic circle wasn't considered up at Woodley in the first place, and there is a piece of green space next to Short Street, which is PID 652792, why that isn't being considered to join those two smaller communities together, have those two roundabouts on the highway. That would allow access from the north side of St. Peter's Road through both traffic circles. It would also allow access from the south side of St. Peter's Road on both traffic circles, and it would completely isolate Mel's Quick Mart from the residential community while still letting them expand. And if that happens, Angus Drive could be closed off altogether at that end if necessary, and none of this would be necessary. I'm no traffic engineer, but it seems like a lot more common sense approach than the ones being used. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. So the mics are still open. Please use the opportunity. I believe that you can submit emails to City Hall up until tomorrow noon, and it's planning@charlottetown.ca, planning@charlottetown.ca.
Hello, my name is Patty Good. I live at 12 Angus Drive, which is adjacent to the proposal of where this lovely new highway is going to be going. I totally disagree with what's going on, as I can see on a daily basis what takes place, and can't understand why, if everybody on Riverside Drive has to do the same loop-de-loop, why is there such a special entrance for Mel's? I feel that probably with making people go down there with the amount of traffic that there is, might give time for people to flow out of there a little better. And on top of that, I was kind of hoping that the government might come to the point to see that this is a really busy, high volume selling products that is just in the wrong spot. It needs to be moved, and the government should take this and the upgrade of this highway to actually relocate them where the rest of the commercial properties are, where the future Sobeys and restaurants will be, instead of having this business that is just too big and will only continue to grow and cause more issues and more bottleneck of traffic. And I agree with everything else that has been said against this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. And please just go as close to the mic as you can. Amplifies much better.
Hi, I'm Laura Morgan. I live on 13 Angus, so I'm right across the street from the proposed driveway. I agree with everything that's been said by the residents. It's really disheartening to feel like your home is going to be drastically changed, and to feel like, obviously, there's been a lot of planning and stuff going on around this, and I received information about this happening at all from my neighbor on Wednesday. I received a letter in the mail on Thursday, and this sticky notes that I found in my purse is all the preparation I can do, because We all have lives and families and jobs and businesses, just like everyone else here. It's really hard to think that because some people make more money than you do, that their business and their livelihood means more than yours. We're new to the neighborhood. We've only been there for 10 years, not like our neighbors who've been there for a very long time. But we deserve the same respect that a large business would get in our neighborhood. We deserve to feel like our needs are being met, not just because you're a business. You don't need to just have your needs met because you're a business. The residents need their needs met as well. You keep talking about safety, taking the left turns off of the highway and eliminating them off the highway. You're not eliminating any left turns. People are still going to be turning left, except they're going to be doing it on a residential street where there are no shoulders, no center lines painted. There's also the community mailbox, which is there. I haven't heard anyone talk about whether it's going to stay, whether they're going to be moved. You're not eliminating any left turns. You're just putting them on a residential road in our front yards, in our side yards, in our neighborhood where there are many children walking, children biking, residents walking their dogs. There's a lot of other traffic that hasn't been talked about, foot traffic, bicycle. There's a lot of congestion in my mind. If you think about putting that there, people keep talking about eliminating the traffic, and you're not eliminating it, you're just moving it. And you're moving it into a place where right now, if you were turning off of St. Peter's Road onto Angus, the cars there would have to stop and wait to cross through the lanes to get onto Angus. So now there's going to be 2 ramps where no one has to stop. They have the right of way to go because they're in a roundabout, and they're going to leave the roundabout and go on to Angus. And then you're going to put another driveway out, so people are going to try to scoot past the oncoming traffic to get to they have to cross oncoming traffic to get to the exit to go back out the way they came. Like, I'm not explaining myself very well again, I didn't have time to prepare. But people exiting are going to still have to go through oncoming traffic. And they're going to have to look behind them to make sure no one's coming off the ramp of the roundabout to get there, if that makes any sense at all. It just doesn't line up in my head. It just doesn't eliminate the problem like everyone keeps talking about. You're just putting it in someone else's literal front yard. Also, I think there are quite a few other places where you have to double back. It's not just the Riverside, North River. Right, I'm sure that these people are very familiar with it because I think it's also Mel's. But they have to double back there between the North River intersection where the old rink is and the Cows Boomburger. They have to double back. You can't cross. If I wanted to go on the Mel's on the other side, you have to go to the roundabout and come back. I don't see why that's such a big issue. They are selling essential goods. I use the term loosely. There are essentials there, but people are literally addicted to the products and services that are in this store. People are going to go up to the roundabout and come back. They are selling alcohol, cigarettes, lottery tickets, and like sugar and sugary drinks and snacks. Like, people aren't going to be like, oh, I guess I can't go to the liquor store today because I have to go all the way down that extra 500 yards. Like, people are going to go there. People are going to find a way to go there. They don't have to go on Angus to get there. I have 2 seconds left. Have a great night.
Thanks, Laura. And Laura, just to repeat that you can send any of your comments to planning@charlottetown.ca. Thank you. Okay, the mics are live, ready for use. Yes, you can. But you have to use the mic because it's a publicly recorded meeting.
Yeah. Just in regards to those additional roundabouts that you mentioned in North River, they're farther away in either direction. When you leave that gas station and you have to go to the roundabout to do a 180 and come back, they're farther away than the ones in East Royalty would be as well too.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? What's that? Councillor McCabe, the mic's yours.
Thank you. I guess.
Just, sorry. You know what, we'll take the comments. No, please.
That's very quick.
No, go right ahead. Just introduce yourself, please.
My name is Randy Good, and it's 12 Angus Drive. As far as what I'm seeing tonight, it's the same proposal that Mr. McIsaac put up 7 years ago. So he says that it's not him that brings it forward. Then who brought this forward? Because it really, ultimately, is not good for our community. No matter which way you look at it, you're putting more traffic onto Angus Drive. I think if he wants to stay where he is right now, he needs one in, one out. Right now, you have two entrances, right? They're wide. It's not often, and it's not unheard to see two cars going left, two cars going right. They get four cars in there. Some are coming in, some are going out. It is not policed the way it is right now, and it's dangerous. I watch people from my deck sitting down by his tanks smoking cigarettes. There's nobody out there policing it. Right today, I have photographs of people standing down there smoking right underneath his vents for his tanks. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the same proposal he put up when many of you councillors were on this council, and you voted it down twice. Now, some of you guys are new, so you have to use your own conviction and figure out where you stand for our community of East Royalty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Good.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Komisky, and I'm a resident owner, actually property owner in East Royalty. So our property is basically will be gone. So we'll not be there, basically. But I'd like to say, we've watched this happen for 12 years. It's not like it's yesterday. It's not like we didn't have notice. We know it's happened. It's been talked about 12 years. Mel's bought the house next to us. Like, it's been that way. 7 years ago, when it, as Mr. Good had said, that it has come up that Mel's asked for that. It was turned down. That was a major meeting for us. So it's ongoing. Like, I know we're not going to be in the community. I still own the property. It's not been bought, but I know it's gone. And it's heartbreaking to know that that's where it's happening. But I also work in the community. I know there's students walk the roads, there's things like that, that there's something has to be done for the whole thing. Like, I know there's a solution, but I don't think it is on the back of the residents that have been there for years. We've been there 40 years. So it does look like Angus Drive will be taking the hit, and it's unfortunate that the neighbors have to do that. So they've got good points. The roundabouts in other areas are done differently, and maybe there's an option that way. So I guess I have to support what the residents are saying. I mean, Mel's has provided service. Yes, it's a good business, but it's expanded. Like, what's going to happen to that property that's next to us that's zoned commercial? What's going to go there in 2 or 3 years' time? You're going to lose some of it for the roundabout, but there's still property and there's still a possibility of expanding. So I think there's more there, but maybe in the next few years. So I think, like, how do we work that out? Can we move it so Mel's Angus Drive does not have to be impacted the way it looks right now? It's just a shame to see where the community's going, but it's expanding. Like, I mean, there's properties selling left, right, and center, and we can't even find a house in East Royalty. So it's hard to know what's happening, and it's disheartening. So I think you have to stand behind the residents in the community, because it's important. They've been there. These people, their lives are there. They put their interest in it, same as we have. I don't live on the property. My family does. I have 2 children that live on the property. And it's disheartening that, 40 years it's gone. But I mean, we're willing to work with that, But it's been hard, and I think it's important that the council has, you faces have changed. Ours haven't. And it's unfortunate. Like, I see some people that are the same, but there's lots that aren't. And, we work with Mr. Yo, and I know that they have a business and that they have to do what they have to do, and safety is an issue. Like, I know that. It's disheartening, but I think it's time that we looked at the people that are there and that, what their needs are there, and if there's a better way of doing it. Let's look at that and not just jump at this. But we've had 7 to 12 years, like 12 years, people. That's a long time to be thinking your house is going to be gone. And that's what I've been living with. And it's disheartening. Like, my parents are gone, and that's all I have left. But yet I know it has to be gone. And I think people have to look at that. And it's unfortunate of what's happening, but I mean, we have to look at what's in the best interest and safety of others. But I think you have to take a hard, long look at it. Even though it's been 12 years that you've been looking at it, it's unfortunate. But anyways, I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne. So what we try to do is, if there are no other speakers from the floor, there's a couple of speakers here at the head table, and we open the mic up to them. So we're going to do that now. Okay? Okay, Councillor McCabe.
Oh, thank you. I can't say you didn't help me. I have a couple questions. Actually, the first question I think might be either for Stephen or Alan Aiken. I'm just wondering, you indicated when you started your presentation, Stephen, that it was a 2013 traffic study. And we've heard tonight that in this community there's been an astronomical amount of development on both sides of the highway. I'm wondering if that traffic study would be indicative or still practical based on what has happened. And I have a couple more questions.
We have the traffic data from 2013, and we have some more recent data that we've used, and we've grown the traffic based on how much the traffic is growing on Route 2 on an annual basis, as well as looking at the Trans-Canada Highway. So the analysis that we looked at to determine what the delays will be are on projected 2021 traffic. And those delays will be less than about 2/3 to 3/4 less than what they are now at those intersections.
Thanks, Alan.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I have another couple clarification points that I just need to ask too. So I think a lot of the questions tonight were pertaining to the roundabout, which we know is a provincial project. But tonight, the City Council are here to hear about a rezoning application for the 3 said properties. So I guess, Laurel, when we're looking at rezoning into from a mature neighborhood to a village center commercial, and again from a low-density residential to the mixed-use corridor, would you be able to just provide a few points so residents can understand what happens if we choose to support this application? What can happen?
Councillor McCabe, do you mean the potential uses in the future? So the reason why the application came forward is because the properties are currently zoned residential, and commercial access would be going over to residential properties. So that is why we were bringing the proposal forward to rezone, so that we would be removing those residential uses from the site. So you would be putting commercial uses onto a commercial property. So once the property is rezoned, if it is rezoned and council chooses to do so, it will become village center commercial. So there are a number of uses within the bylaw that are permitted in that zone. which is, the commercial use that is there now.
Okay, so I'm just trying to clarify. So it could expand for more commercial at that point if we choose to rezone?
Yes, once it's rezoned, it could expand.
Okay, maybe the next question would be for Jeff or Dan. Is there any future plan of what that might look like for residents, or is it just that you're wanting to rezone it so there's access entrance to the existing building?
Could you use the mic, Dan or Jeff, please? Thank you.
Currently, we do not have a plan. We want to see what is left after the province buys the house that we own on the corner, which we haven't had an offer for yet, by the way. But when the roundabout does go in and how much space is left, and when they finish their project as planned, if that's the case, then we will see what is left, and then we'll look at what the possibilities are at that point, if there are.
Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to get my head around all these. So once we rezone this, though, that would be an as of right. He wouldn't have to come back to council, correct?
Once the property is rezoned to commercial, yes. If the property owner chooses to expand the commercial operation, they would be able to do so, provided there aren't issues with traffic. So we would send it out to our city traffic engineers and also provincial traffic engineers to do a review and an assessment.
And can this roundabout go without a rezoning from the city? Can they have access through that residential property if this roundabout project goes as is without us rezoning that property, sorry?
No, you can't, you shouldn't be able to route commercial traffic onto a residential property because you have two conflicting uses.
Okay. And one more question for the engineer people. You've heard lots of different information from the residents that have lived here for a long time. Is that plan set firm, or is there any option for any different exit entrances?
Well, as I get asked that many times, and as I always say, I mean, it's never set in stone until the shovel's in the ground. But, looking at the research and as I mentioned, safety and capacity, we felt that is the best for the area to move, high volumes of traffic along Route 2 and as well as access the secondary roads or the City of Charlottetown streets to give them better accommodate the traffic coming out the many side streets that we're going to intersect with by building the 3 roundabouts.
Okay, Laurel, just while you're up there, some residents may look through our zoning development bylaw, and I just asked the chair, if I was to look for village center commercial, what, is that under highway commercial zone too? There's no separate zoning for that, is there?
Well, what I should clarify is Village Center Commercial is the official plan designation. They're rezoning to mixed-use corridor.
Okay, MUC.
MUC.
And mature neighborhood is not in the zoning development bylaw, so what does that fall under? Just R1, R2?
No, mixed-use corridor is a commercial.
No, it said to rezone from mature neighborhood. What's a mature?
Yes, so when we did the East Royalty Plan, we designated areas as mature neighborhoods. So these were areas that were already developed, fully developed and built out. The other areas that were, because East Royalty is a growing community, we had worked with various developers at that time to develop a plan for the raw land that was ready for development. So then those areas were zoned for specific zones for residential use, but anything that was already full built out and established, we designate it as mature neighborhood, which is basically low-density residential and medium. It could also be some medium-density residential.
Yeah. So it's section 22, East Royalty Mixed Use Village Center for ERMUVC. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so,
Thank you, Laurel. Any other councillors that? Okay, Councillor Yankov, just turn on your mic. Thank you. We don't have these in the council chamber.
Thank you. I think this question is probably for Laurel. I don't know if everyone here is familiar with, and maybe you could provide us with a list of just what could potentially go in as center village commercial or village center commercial and mixed use corridor, just for clarification.
so the zone is mixed-use corridor. It's not the mixed-use village commercial. The reason why it's mixed-use corridor, the proposed rezoning, is because the adjoining property is mixed-use corridor. So we wouldn't have two separate zones. We worked with the developer and we suggested that it was better to apply for mixed-use corridor just so you wouldn't have two separate commercial zones. When you're dealing with zoning, it's best to keep zones contiguous as opposed to various spot zones. So just let me find the section.
Section 23, is it? Mixed-use corridor?
No, that's East Royalty. Just give me
No.
one moment.
'22 is East Royalty, 23 is mixed use.
Okay, so section 24 of my bylaw, mixed-use corridor, permitted uses are uses permitted in the R4 zone, which are residential uses. Uses permitted in the institutional zone, subject to the regulations for permitted uses in that zone. Commercial uses permitted in the East Royalty mixed-use village commercial zone, so it steps down to that zone. Automobile sales and service, cannabis retail store, equipment sales, rental service, greenhouse, nursery retail, outdoor retail display, parking lot, retail store with connected retail warehouse, light manufacturing assembly facility, retail warehouse, service repair establishment, storage facility, transport terminal, and warehouse and/or distribution center are the uses permitted in that zone.
Okay there, Councillor Yankov, do you want to follow up? Is that all right? Okay, that concludes this. Oh, turn on your mic there, Councillor.
It's on. I want to thank the engineers from the provincial government for being here tonight, Mr. McIsaac, and more importantly, I want to thank the residents for coming here to discuss the issues that are important to them. Quality of life is probably the central theme for this particular community, any community for that matter. There's no doubt about it. Mel's in East Royalty is probably one of the most busiest gas bars in this province, I dare say Atlantic Canada, and good for Mr. McIsaac. He's a good businessman. But there's definitely a conflict here. And I know the province is trying to come up with a reasonable, realistic solution. But after, once again hearing from the residents, with all due respect to the provincial government, more work has to be done. A lot more work has to be done. There's got to be another option. There has to be another alternative. There has to be another solution, and we need to take some more time to see if we can explore those possibilities and examine what the possibilities may be. With that in mind, there's just a couple of questions. Mr. Aiken, I'd like to ask you a question. You're involved with traffic studies, talked about traffic studies, the years on St. Peter's Road. If this project was to proceed and traffic would increase dramatically on Angus Drive, was there any type of traffic projections earmarked for Angus Drive and what the impact and effect that would be on the residents?
The volume of traffic that's projected on that portion of Angus Drive, Mr. Tweel, is during the morning peak hour. Just one moment, please. There are currently, or projected to be this year, based on previous counts, as well as increasing the traffic out to 2021 this year, there are expected to be 72 vehicles in the morning peak hour that would turn left at the roundabout and go up Angus Drive and turn right into Mel's. Okay. The volume of traffic coming out of Mel's, turning left, is equivalent. It's about 71 vehicles in the morning peak hour. So some of those 71 exiting would continue to use the access points on St. Peter's Road. Mm-hmm. And then go to the roundabout and turn left or circle around the roundabout and head east towards Surrey. Some of those 71 might use the new access onto Angus Drive. But it's very similar distance from Mel's to Angus to the roundabout than it is from Mel's out to St. Peter's Road to the roundabout. So we projected probably about a half of those 71 vehicles in the morning peak hour that want to go east would use Angus, and the other half would continue to use the access points on St. Peter's Road.
And that's projections for 2021.
Yep.
So you really didn't look, say, 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, 15 years ahead, because there's plenty of opportunity for growth and development in East Royalty.
That's why I would say, Mr. Tweel, that back in 2013 or so, the province and the city got together and did the East Royalty study and concluded that in order to accommodate the substantial growth expected in East Royalty, controlled intersections, and in this case, we've decided that roundabouts are the preferred option, would be required in order to accommodate the growth. And in terms of where they were proposed to be located, we chose Oakland and McRae, basically as the western extent of East Royalty, and McWilliams in the east, and Angus is pretty much bang in the middle of the three of them. So it provides very good connection points to both the residents of the northern portion of East Royalty as well as the southern portion, and effectively should equally distribute the traffic amongst those three roundabouts. The projections that were done back in 2013, I believe, looked at least out until 2033 or 2035, and it was determined that the roundabouts at those 3 locations would accommodate the traffic out easily to those periods.
And your next question, Councillor Twill?
Yeah, my next question is, and I think it might have been alluded to earlier, but I'm going to ask the question again. You know, the plan is for 3 proposed roundabouts, and the emphasis, of course, is moving that vehicle traffic, regardless of whether you're using neighborhood streets or St. Peter's Road. With that in mind, and you know, I haven't even heard any mention of infrastructure for pedestrian traffic. And we talk about safety, but there's been no mention whatsoever about safety for pedestrian traffic, whether you live in Angus Drive or St. Peter's Road. I'm not even sure about the lighting, whether that needs to be enhanced or improved.
You want me to?
So I'm wondering why there has been no concentration on infrastructure for the safety of the pedestrian traffic, and what the impact and effect would be with that increased traffic on Angus Drive and infrastructure, and how that coincides with pedestrian safety. There hasn't been any mention of that.
Okay, so that's on pedestrian traffic.
I'll address that. It's a, we're looking on the north side of St. Peter's Road. We're looking at an 8-foot wide paved transportation trail all the way along. And as part of that, where the crosswalks will be located for the roundabouts are set back 2 to 3 car lengths from the roundabout. So it gives the pedestrians and vehicles using the roundabout some better sight lines. And we put up the rapid flashing beacons when pedestrians want to cross. So again, there will be one in Angus. Also, you know, as far as going up to the entrance in the Mells, yes, we'd certainly provide, you know, a paved walkway up there for pedestrians that want to enter Mells at that location. But, you know, anything else past that, again, you know, the city's responsible for their own sidewalks. Again, we have no issue with, you know, close and influence area of the intersections. We'll certainly join forces or do what we can there. But, you know, as far as improving the pedestrian walkways up further on Angus Drive, that's something, you know, the city itself will discuss, and if there's any, you know, funding through the active transportation trail or any opportunities with the federal government to cost share some of those projects, that's something that, you know, the city can look at.
Okay, so has there been any other option or any other possibility, any other opportunity explored or examined that would not impact and affect Angus Drive in any which way, shape, or form? Have you looked at any other alternative?
Well, I mean, you know, where we're going to increase the traffic on Angus Drive is going to be the first 100 meters or whatever. I know it was talked about that, yes, as it expands, if that entranceway is there, so vehicles don't have to come out onto St. Peter's Road and go up to McWilliams and come back. We talked about that, but, you know, if the back entrance is there, it's safer for the people that live in Angus. If it's not there, then people using Mells will still come down Angus. They'll have easier access out to St. Peter's Road. It'll be much easier to make a left turn lane or a left turning movement there. So, you know, people that come down and want to get to Mells, it's, you know, probably going to increase regardless, because it's going to be easier to get out on St. Peter's Road from, you know, any one of the 3 intersections. But, you know, I can't really talk to how it's going to expand in the future. We know, you know, in the next 10 years, there's going to be a lot of development out there. You certainly see it now in McWilliams with all the new structures that are going up. And, you know, when all those homes are, have people living in them, you know, that intersection is certainly going to be a lot more traffic coming down McWilliams, and the roundabout will give these people an opportunity to utilize and get out into the provincial road.
Okay. Do you have one more question?
Yeah, I have a question for
Alan?
Staff and planning for Laurel.
Oh.
I should add, Mr. Ramsey, that there will be lighting all along St. Peter's Road, much like there is what you see now at the near the Northridge Roundabout. There will be
Thank you,
area
Al.
lighting roughly spaced at 45 meters center to center all along that section.
Thanks, Alan. Laurel, thank you for your presentation. Correct me if I'm wrong. So if the zoning is not approved to mixed-use corridor, then is it true that the roundabout will not proceed? Is
No,
that
the
correct?
roundabout will proceed,
Right.
but you don't have that access for people using Mel's or the residents that are north of Mel's to enter into that property without having to go out through the roundabout and then circle back through the other roundabout. So, I mean, you've got traffic going out onto St. Peter's Road. Basically, you're going to have more traffic filtering onto St. Peter's Road, where with that access, it takes that what would I say, movement away for people having to go onto that provincial highway and then circle back to go into Mel's, and then circle back onto the highway to get back onto Angus Drive. So it's just alleviating those traffic movements and creating a safer situation where people don't have to go out into that highway to access that business.
Okay, so, once again, if there's no zoning change, then there's not going to be any entrance or exit onto Angus Drive. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, no.
Thank you.
Okay. And Laurel, this will be going back to planning board, correct?
It has to go back to planning
So the
board for
members who are on
recommendation.
planning board, the councillors, Councillor Duffy, you chair, that'll
Yes.
going back to the meeting. So
Yep.
we have Julie McCabe, Lanny Yankov, Councillor Tweel, myself, and you.
Yeah,
And-
5 of us, yep,
And that will be a public meeting too,
yep,
correct?
yep.
Okay. Councillor Bernard, yep, you're on.
Just a quick question for Steve or Alan. Just on the sidewalks in the program, when you guys do the 3 roundabouts on St. Peter's Road, the sidewalks that are there now, you guys will be replacing, correct?
Yes, if we're going to tear up the existing sidewalk, then we rebuild them at the proper grade and everything.
Okay, no, perfect. And you're doing sidewalk, you're doing paved pathway?
On the south side, yeah, there's an existing sidewalk on the south side. And on the north side, that's going to be all paved active transportation trail, 8 feet wide.
Okay, but so there is sidewalk on both sides though?
Yeah, we'll be tearing up the sidewalk on the north side,
Okay.
and that'll go away, and it'll be a paved active transportation trail that'll accommodate cyclists and pedestrians.
Right on. Okay.
Cyclists.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. So that's it, Mr. Chair. You're all right? Mr. McIsaac, did you want to just conclude, or Mr. Doucette?
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the people that made the comments, the residents. I mean, if it wasn't for the residents, Mel's wouldn't be the success it is, so I appreciate the comments. Trying to move traffic in a busy location is quite a little challenge. And you compound that with the efforts of the government for the same reasons for moving traffic. It's all about safety. There are a limited number of homes that on the Mills side, I guess it's pretty obvious we own those properties. There's at least one, I guess, or two across the street. One is going to be purchased for the roundabout. I'm not sure on the status of the next one up. But the objective of moving traffic is not going to go away. The government is going to put a roundabout in, by the looks of things. And the traffic on Angus, I think, will, contrary to some of the comments, I don't think it's going to be more dangerous. I think it's going to be safer, personally. Most of the traffic that's going to be going up Angus off the roundabout will be either going to where they live, where they've always been going, or going into Mel's for 200 meters and back out and back on their business onto St. Peter's Road or something like that. So it's about movement of traffic, and it's about doing it the right way. And I think we've at least tried to demonstrate that we're a pretty good corporate citizen. We're trying to accommodate what the community would like to see, and the services that they have supported. But at the end of the day, it's inevitable that changes do have to be made. This is a growing community. This is going to be comparable to the growth in Stratford, maybe. And along with that, there has to be some changes, and the government acknowledges that, and they're trying to do something about it. And this again, I reiterate, this is motivated. This is by the government. This is something that they're proposing that we'll try to make the best of it and move on and try to keep serving the community. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McIsaac. Okay, we're ready to move on to the next item. Again, thank you, Mr. Yeo, Mr. Aiken, Dan, Jeff, and the residents of East Royalty for expressing your opinions. You do have the opportunity to send in an email, planning@charlottetown.ca before noon tomorrow. Thank you very much. Do you want to read the next one, sir? And thank you too, Laurel, for your presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next issue on the agenda is 79 Connell Street, PID 1105451. This request is to amend Appendix C, approve site specific exemptions as per Section 311, site-specific exemptions of the zoning development bylaw to exempt 7.9 or 7-9 Connell Street, PID 1105451, from Section 34.2 of the zoning and development bylaw from the required permitted land uses at grade on walkable streets, and create a new table, Appendix B, approved site-specific exemptions for the official plan to exempt 7-9 Connell Street from the designated permitted uses on a walkable street as per Section 4.2.3, bracket 2, close bracket, of the official plan, in order to allow residential dwelling units and office spaces on the ground floor abutting a walkable street.
Okay. That's it? Okay. I did mention, I forgot to mention that Councillor Ramsey is not attending because he is unavailable. Deputy Mayor Cody has just joined the WebEx for this application. And Laurel, you're presenting for this application?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Okay, so the property owners of 102-296 PEI Inc. have made an application for a site-specific exemption from the requirement under Section 34.2 permitted uses at grade on walkable streets of the zoning and development bylaw. This is the subject property on the corner of Pownell and Water. On Schedule B2 of the official plan and Map C walkable streets of the zoning and development bylaw, this portion of Pownell Street, along with portions of other streets that run perpendicular and south of Water Street, are designated as walkable streets. And I will just flip down here. This is actually Schedule B2, the official plan. So these streets that are coded in blue are the designated walkable streets in the city, and this is the subject street. These walkable streets were to accommodate active ground floor uses that would activate the waterfront and create a must-see destination in this area of the city. The application will require an amendment to the official plan to exempt 7 to 9 Pownell Street from Section 4.3.2 of the official plan. If approved, a new appendix to the official plan will also need to be created to recognize properties that have been granted site-specific exemptions. Whoops. And this would be the proposed new Appendix B for the official plan. This would be the first property that would be included within it, and as exemptions are approved over time, if there are other exemptions, the table would grow. So staff are proposing this portion of the building that the applicant has requested to be exempt from this provision of the bylaw and official plan. It's immediately adjacent to Pownell Street, and this is the portion of the building that they are looking to have the exemption on. The unit was initially intended to house commercial or tourism uses that animate the street, and if approved, this site-specific exemption would allow multi-use buildings, this multi-use building at 7 to 9 Pownell Street to incorporate residential and office use on the ground floor. This would exempt them from the requirement to provide tourism-related services, retail uses, or a cultural establishment on the ground floor abutting Pownell Street, which is deemed the walkable street under the official plan and zoning bylaw. So the applicant, Spencer Campbell, is here to give a short presentation outlining his request and the answer. He will also be able to answer any questions from the public. So, Spencer, would you like to come up?
Thanks, Laurel. Your Worship, members of council. I'm here with Steve Dunn, my partner in this project, to talk about this. I'm going to see where I'm going here. Do I go forward to my comments, Laurel? Oh, we're going to a different presentation. Okay.
And Spencer, while we're waiting, is David Lopez with you also?
Yeah, Dave is here. David is our architect on the project.
And Mr. Hennessy's part of your group too?
Terry Hennessy is here as well, who has provided a letter of support and owns 2 other properties on the street.
And there's no one out in the parking lot?
Pardon me?
No.
Not to my knowledge, Your Worship. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Ellen. So it's Steve and I are here, and we have been working on this project now for some time. We've been in to see the folks in Planning Board, and we've been in different occasions with city staff, and we appreciate the work that's been done by city staff and the support of members of council for this particular project to date. We are committed to working with the city and with the city staff to try and make the downtown even more vibrant and to make Charlottetown a better place. So we have anyone who's been down there lately can see there's an awful lot of activity. We have 2 things on the go. We have a full renovation being done at 24 Water Street, where that building has been taken right down to the studs and is now coming back to life, and is going to be very nice building when it's complete. And the property that we're talking about here tonight, 7 to 9 Pownell, which is a 4-story building with underground parking, and it has 14 units. We started the project in the summer of 2020, and we will be completing it in the middle of this summer. So this is a picture that was taken probably a month or two ago of the building, and you can see it obviously under construction. And the area that we're looking at is the corner of Water and Pownell, and in particular you see those two first large orange windows that are indicating where this commercial space is. It's approximately 1,600 square feet of space on the ground floor only, just the corner of Water and Pownell. And Ellen had this chart up earlier. This is David's work of the ground floor, and we've marked in red the particular space that we're talking about and looking for support on here tonight. So as it was indicated by Ellen, under the bylaws of the city, Pownell Street is designated as a walkable street under the bylaw, and this is also referred to in the official plan for the city. So once you've been designated as a walkable street, the things that you can do on that walkable street are more restrictive than in the waterfront zone generally, which is the zone that this building is located within. And without reading all of it, this is just the bylaw in question. And you can see, for example, eating and drinking establishments. We could put a bar in that space. We could put a restaurant in that space. Tourism-related services, which by their nature would tend to be just primarily seasonal, a retail store, or a cultural establishment. So under the walkable street provisions of the bylaw, those are the only things we would be allowed to do in that space. And so our request is that we be permitted to be exempted from those, from that 4 categories that we just talked about a minute ago. And our intention, if approved ultimately, is to use that space either as an office space or for a residential use. And we've been back and forth on which one we think is best. We think we've made a decision that if this is approved, that we would look to put office space in that corner. And so why are we asking for this to happen, and why are we not content to just go with the walkable street provisions? And there are a couple of different reasons that we would highlight. First of all, you know, the location. The location is a little bit off the beaten path for a retail use, for example. It's off of, it's not on Queen Street. It's a little bit more out of the way. It's in an area that is primarily to the west residential, and then, of course, bordered on the east by the courthouse and what's primarily smaller commercial offices. We have limited parking. We have underground parking at that site, and we've been able to secure some more parking, but we really don't have the kind of parking that you would normally want to have for a successful retail, for example, use. We don't like the idea of putting a bar or a restaurant in there. We don't think that the residents of that building would want to have a bar or a restaurant below them. We think that that would be noisy. There would be smells and so on. And the reality is that to the west, all of the other properties on Water Street are residential. And then as you move to the east, you really have more, as I say, the courthouse and office type uses. So, and then as we know, COVID has been a big factor in all of this. It has had an impact, obviously. We hope very temporarily, but an impact on vacancy rates for retail businesses in Charlottetown. We hope that that's obviously going to change as we move forward right now. But at the present time, there is a heightened vacancy of retail space in the downtown core, and we don't feel that it's really economically viable to put a retail type use in there at this time. I would note that in the materials, there have been letters of support received. We have received letters from Terry Hennessy and McKenna, who own the 2 properties just up beyond ours, and from Tim Casey and Bob Sear, who are next to us, and then Terry and Terry McKenna, who have the 2 properties before that.
And we've also received a letter of support from Downtown Charlottetown, Inc. So that's really my presentation. We're very excited about the property. We take a lot of pride in the property. We put a lot of work into it. We want it to be the very, very obviously nice and successful property. And so we're looking for support to make this change and make it more viable. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them or defer to David or Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. So the mics are open. Just please give your name, and we have staff here to disinfect the mics. You want to go, John? Just state your name, John, and where you live.
Hi, my name is John Rankin, and I live on Water Street and have for over 40 years. The development on the corner is a very significant change to Water Street. First, the oil tanks disappeared, then we got a park. Now we're getting substantial housing. When I read what was in the paper, it made no sense because it referred to exemptions, exemptions, and exemptions, and a Pownell Street address. I always thought that property was on Water Street. The existing sidewalk, it's the only street walkable that has no sidewalk now because your building has taken away that sidewalk. I don't think there's enough room to walk down the side of that building without narrowing the existing street. As you know, at the end of the street is the yacht club, and quite often there are 50 and 60-foot trailers going up and down there, hauling boats in and out of the yacht club. How will a walkable street be affected by a change that you're asking for in a building that's already built, except for the interior structure?
Well, Mr. Rankin, I think you're making a good point with respect to the sidewalk, and there's no question that it's a busy street, and we've certainly seen that over the last several months as the construction has proceeded and all the contractors and so on have tried to find a place to park. I think that what you're saying in a way supports what we're saying. The Pownell, that section of Pownell going down to the yacht club right now in the official plan is considered to be a walkable street, and we don't really see it as fitting with that objective. When you think about things like the boat trailers that you're referring to, it's a busy area. I can't speak to the sidewalk. I'm not quite sure what the plans will be for that, but it's not necessarily about what the pedestrians do. The idea behind the official plan is that that space is supposed to be a space that people are going to be drawn into, and we're saying that with COVID in particular, that a retail store or a bar and a restaurant down in that area is not really going to be very successful or very desirable, and probably not good for the yacht club either, because I know the yacht club has its own seasonal restaurant and bar that's in operation as well.
Well, we'll let them worry about that. I guess the point is that the sidewalk has disappeared, so it's no longer a walkable street. You cannot put the pedestrians out in the street. How did the building is now built up almost to the edge of the street? The garage entrance is out into the street. These are all issues that you addressed at some time previously when you got a permit to do what's been done. Certainly, the building is going to be I think very attractive and certainly very desirable for many people. But you're asking for an exemption with no stated project in mind. You could be this or you could be that. And how do I word this? You're pretty well allowed to do anything if you get the exemption, but you're not saying what you're going to do.
No, well, what I was saying earlier is that, and our materials do indicate that if we were successful with our request, that we would use that 1,600 square feet either for a residential use, so it would become an additional apartment in our building, or we would use it as an office. And we have gone back and forth on which would be the better approach, and where we are now, and I believe it's a final position for us. If we're successful, we would look to have an office use in there. So we would look for a law office or a real estate office or someone that is interacting with the courthouse to go in there. And that's what the space would be used for.
I'm not sure how to ask the question. When you look at the building today, it was initially suggested it would be 4 stories high, and it is. But the first floor is 12 feet high. There's reduced levels as you go up, and it must have been planned as some sort of commercial operation right from the very beginning to put 10 or 12-foot ceilings in the lower floor. I mean, I'm not trying to challenge the designer. I'm saying there must have been thoughts of a commercial operation before you thought about residential.
Well, when we signed the development agreement, we were proceeding pursuant to the bylaws as they exist at that time, which require us as a walkable street to have one of the 4 types of uses that I mentioned earlier. So when that end of the building was planned, in the development agreement we signed, at that time we were required to comply with walkable street. So the use at that time would have been retail, bar, restaurant, seasonal tourism, space, or a cultural establishment. So that's when the building was designed. It was designed with that in mind, and that's why the ceilings in that space were higher.
Okay. Anyway, it was just my observation as I walk up and down Water Street to and from the yacht club or beyond.
Yeah. Now, if I could just say one other thing, in the other end, on the water side, we actually do have a residential unit that does have, I believe it is 12 feet ceiling on the south
on the ground
west
level.
corner.
Yeah.
And that height really was there because in the other unit, you have the parking garage below, so we needed a little bit more height, right? So there is, those ceilings, not necessarily because we were wanting to be commercial or we being residential. We sort of have one of each on that floor.
Okay, and it's only an observation. I haven't been in the building. I'll be curious when the time comes.
Happy to give you a tour anytime.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, John. Do you want to say a few words there, Mr. Lopez?
Your Worship, Council, can you hear me? Yeah, there we go. Thank you, John. I just wanted to clarify one aspect. Spencer, could you flip back to that floor plan that you had shown? So really, that sidewalk, during construction, it's concealed, but the property doesn't extend up to the sidewalk. So the sidewalk as it is will remain. And in addition, there'll be a barrier-free ramp that allows access up to the units, plus the landscaped area. And in the beginning, too, you had mentioned that that was a park originally, and it was actually not a park. It was a parking lot. And there is a tree and some other green space to the east side of that sidewalk, which will remain.
I just found this on my phone, and I wish I could put it up there, but I don't have the there's the sidewalk. There are the trees that were there before construction. Yeah. And that sidewalk is all gone. Those trees are gone.
Yeah, John's correct. The trees are gone. However, the sidewalk will still remain. And in fact, there'll be a little bit of a buffer space, about 2 feet between the ramp system, and the landscaping and the sidewalk. So the sidewalk will remain. You just don't see it right now.
It's gone. The 4 parking spots that were there are gone too.
No, they'll stay the same. They'll stay. In fact, people are parking there right now, in that area. Like you'll see, there's lifts and stuff. It's deceiving. I understand. It's very deceiving, but that the sidewalk is going. There will be a sidewalk when this development is completed, and there'll also be a landscape strip along there with there's a bit of a retaining wall. There's going to be some ramps. So in fact, the walkability of that area has been improved. But I just wanted to clarify that. And where the parking garage goes, there's also a sidewalk in that area as well. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that, David. And John, I'm glad you brought that up. I was looking at the same. Yeah. But this, as David said, the sidewalk is still there. And the cars do park east-west, correct? Yeah. Anyways, good observation, John. Thank you. Years of being down at the yacht club. Did you pay David yet? Any other questions? Okay, so councillors, Councillor Tweel?
Just want to take this opportunity to congratulate Spencer and his partner. Significant investment in downtown Charlottetown, huge investment. So, and you know, when you take that leap of faith, you're hoping that it's going to work out, and I wish you all the success.
Thank you. Councillor Tweel.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Tweel. Did you want to close up? Any other questions? No? Councillor Yankoff, you're all right. Councillor McLeod, good? Well, thank you, Mr. Campbell, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Lopez, Mr. Hennessy. Thank you very much. Laurel, thank you for the presentation. And John, thanks for clarifying the sidewalk issue. It's very important for that end of the town, for the city. So I think that's it, Mr. or Councillor Duffy. Okay. Any new business? No new business? Motion to adjourn? Motion moved, motion second. All agree. Here, here.